She looks exhausted. I have no idea what transpired there. I can check Twitter again and see if anyone updated. I see across the national feeds, Sanders Clinton meeting just ended. I am not seeing anything on Twitter. Well, I'm seeing quite a bit on Twitter, but not in regards to this meeting.
Clearer picture is emerging of these terrifying moments when a police SWAT team brought the nightmare to an end.
I made the decision to commence the rescue operation and do the explosive breach. There was a hole in the wall about 2 feet off the ground and about 2 or 3 feet wide. We were able to rescue dozens and dozens of people that came out of that hole. The suspect came out of that hole himself, armed with a handgun and a long gun, engaged in a gun battle with officers where he was ultimately killed.
IS released audio praising the attack, but so far there isn't a suggestion that they ordered it.
This is being treated as a terrorist investigation. It appears that the shooter was inspired by various extremist information. At this stage, we see no clear evidence that he was directed externally.
Saturday night was Latin night at the Orlando Pulse, a time for fun and dancing.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next entertainer is from Bronx, New York!
Shortly after this, these people were running for their lives, hiding in corners. Some played dead while others sent frantic text messages, begging friends and family for help. This is the moment everything changed, captured on a mobile phone. Loud gunshots ring out over the music as the camera shows the face of 25-year-old Amanda Alvia, who lost her life. That happened at 2 a.m. Omar Mateen entered the Pulse nightclub with an assault rifle and a handgun and opened fire. A police officer at the club confronted Mateen, who barricaded himself in the toilets, taking 4 or 5 people hostage. Police contacted him by phone. They say he was cool and calm and made no demands, but pledged allegiance to IS. 15 to 20 more people were hiding in another toilet, texting and calling family and police for help. At 5 a.m, police mounted a rescue operation, fearing an imminent loss of life. Officers set off distraction blasts and tried to blow a hole in the wall before ramming it with an armoured vehicle, allowing dozens to escape. The gunman emerged soon after and exchanged fire with police before being shot dead. Omar Mateen was known to the FBI. They'd interviewed him twice after suspecting he'd been radicalized, but they couldn't substantiate that. He visited Saudi Arabia twice in the past 5 years. His father said he's sorry for what his son did.
Those people, they lost their loved one. They are my family. And I apologize for what my son did.
This police cordon has become a focus, not just for news crews, but for local leaders, pastors, imams, even survivors and their friends who are finding some comfort in telling their story.
Chris Enzo's close friend, Rodney Sumter, is a barman at the Pulse. He was shot 3 times, but managed to escape.
When he got shot, the force of the semi-automatic bullets threw him to the ground, like up against the wall on the ground, right? So what he describes then is hearing nothing but constant gunfire, and he was waiting for there to be a pause break in the fire, but there was never a stop.
People are struggling to comprehend the scale of this attack and to define what appears to be both an act of terror and an act of hate. Amanda Walker, Sky News, Orlando, Florida.
Islamic terrorism. Listen closely as he includes a reference to the presumptive GOP nominee, Donald Trump.
They know full well who the enemy is. So do the intelligence and law enforcement officers who spend countless hours disrupting plots and protecting all Americans, including politicians who tweet and appear on cable news shows. They know who the nature of the enemy is. So there's no magic to the phrase radical Islam. It's a political talking point. It's not a strategy.
And now for this quick reminder, we will be taking your calls for the next hour. The number to call is much more on this story. We are pleased to be joined via Skype by Congressman Ted Yoho of Florida. Congressman Yoho serves as a member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs and the Subcommittee on Terrorism, Nonproliferation, and Trade. Congressman, thank you for joining us here on Newsmax Prime.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Congressman, you said earlier this week on Tim Constantine's radio show that, quote, President Obama owns this for failing to call out Islamic terrorism. Tell us more what you mean by that.
Well, this goes back to his failed foreign policies, and this has led to the breakdown of our intelligence. It's led down to a breakdown of our fighting ISIS. If we go back to 2013 in the summer of that, when we were looking at defeating Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, we had cut our sortie missions in Afghanistan and Iraq down to minimal, and that allowed for ISIS to break away from Al-Qaeda, and then they spread across the northern region of Iraq, and then they've spread everywhere, and without identifying who the problem is. It's radical Islamic jihadists. Without identifying that, you can't defeat that. And by minimizing what the threat was against the military advisors, it allowed ISIS to gain a foothold, and they became the largest, best funded, best equipped terrorist organization in the world, bar none. We've never seen anything like this. And it goes back to also Hillary Clinton's foreign policies. If you look at what happened in Libya, that was Secretary of State then, Hillary Clinton, who pushed for the no-fly zone in Libya that led to the fall of Muammar Gaddafi, and that led to a failed state. And today in Libya, it is a training and a recruiting center for ISIS. They have over 6 camps there, and they have gained this time while America sat on the sideline, didn't identify who they were, and then failed to engage in the proper method. And that's why I say President Obama does own this.
Congressman, I want to talk about what happened in Orlando. Congressional Democrats further politicized the Orlando mass shooting by walking out yesterday. You were there. This happened immediately following a moment of silence in Congress to honor those victims. Let's take a listen.
On which the yeas and nays are ordered, the clerk will report the title of the bill. H.R. 5312, a bill to amend the High Performance Computing Act of 1991 to authorize activities for support of networking and information technology research and for other purposes.
Congressman, I want you, if you can, in your own words, explain what we were seeing right there.
What you were seeing is we finished up one vote. Then we went into the moment of silence. Speaker Ryan came out, asked for a moment of silence, and we did that. And he was going to go in and finish the procedures for the day on the voting. And the Democrats wanted to stand up, and they wanted to make this about gun control. And I just think it's, number one, it's disingenuous, it's disrespectful for the moment. And to turn this into a political issue and demand that we talk about gun control is just totally off base. And it was something that was very childish, something that shouldn't happen in the United States Congress. And I just think it's bad form, and it doesn't bode well for the Democrats.
I want to bring in some other gentlemen to join us in the conversation. Joining us via Skype is former CIA analyst and now senior Vice President for Policy and Programs for the Center for Security Policy, Fred Fleitz. Also joining us from Newsmax Washington, retired U.S. Army Colonel Patrick Murray. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. He served in Iraq, Russia, and the United Nations. Gentlemen, I want to turn our attention now to a report that's on our homepage, our parent website, newsmax.com. It details how the Russians successfully hacked the Democratic National Committee's computer network, including its entire database filled with research all about Donald Trump. Now, the hackers were traced back to the Russian government, and they reportedly swiped opposition research about Donald Trump. Fred, let's start with you. I want to get your reaction to this new report.
Well, it's good to be here. It's not unusual that a foreign government would do this, but the lack of security in the DNC computers is really stunning. Now, this is the party that Hillary Clinton represents. We know she has apparently no interest at all in protecting classified information based on this private server that she kept in her home when she was Secretary of State. I think this is an important lesson on what we will get if Hillary wins the presidency.
We now want to go to a caller, Sandy from Pennsylvania. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, what I want to say is this. When President Obama came on after this horrendous thing happened with Orlando, he didn't even sound like it was heartfelt or anything. Soon as Trump wanted him to say Islamic radical Islam there with the attack, right away he got on today. He was all upset because it's all about him. And I feel this way. If Trump doesn't get in, this country's gone, because this guy, I believe he hates this country.
Let's ask our retired U.S. Army Colonel
Can I respond
Patrick
to that,
Murray.
Miranda? Yeah.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, good to see you, Miranda. Listen, Sandy's exactly right. Right now, in the wake of what just happened in Orlando, we need a commander-in-chief, a president, to come out and to comfort us, to bring us together, and to tell us that, oh, by the way, we've got this. We're going to go after these guys, and we're going to take them out. Instead, what did we have, Miranda and Sandy, who just called in? We have a petulant, divisive, snarky commander-in-chief, because it's all about him. It's all about the fact that people are criticizing him for the fact that he refuses to identify who our enemy is. Say it with me, Barack. It's radical Islamic extremists.
Well, let's talk about defending these extremists. Former New York Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik was on this very program last night. Now, he says the FBI needs to utilize local police more to help see what the FBI cannot monitor alone. Take a listen to what he had to say, gentlemen.
How do we revitalize the Democratic Party? How do we make it easy for people to revitalize the Democratic Party? How do we make it easy for people to participate politically rather than have one of the lowest voter turnouts of any major country on earth? Number one, I do believe that we have to replace the current Democratic National Committee leadership. We need a person at the leadership of the DNC who is vigorously supporting and outworking to bring people into the political process. Yeah, I know political parties need money, but it is more important that we have energy, that we have young people, that we have working class people who are going to participate in the political process and fight for their kids and for their parents. We need, at the Democratic National Convention, to approve a progressive platform, the most progressive platform ever passed by the Democratic Party, a platform which makes it crystal clear that the Democratic Party is in fact on the side of working people, is on the side of low-income people, is on the side of people who have no health insurance, and is prepared to stand up to the powerful corporate interest whose greed is doing so much harm to this country. We need real electoral reform within the Democratic Party. And that means, among many, many other things, open primaries. The idea that in the state of New York, the great state of New York, 3 million people could not participate in helping to select who the Democratic or Republican candidate for president would be because they had not registered, because they had registered as an independent, not as a Democrat or Republican, is incomprehensible. We need same-day registration. And that means that anybody in this country can walk in and get registered to vote on the day of a primary or a caucus. We need adequate staffing and training to run elections in a way that is appropriate for our democracy. We now take it for granted, but we should not. In this process, we have gone through a situation in Arizona where people waited online 5 hours in order to cast their votes. How many tens of thousands of people simply gave up the right to vote and walked away? We need to make sure that we have in California, among other states, that the votes get counted. We are taking for granted that in California it will take weeks for votes to actually be counted, and I'm not sure that the votes have yet been counted in Puerto Rico. So we need major, major changes in the Democratic Party in converting it to a party of the people, welcoming working people, welcoming young people, and we need an electoral process which is worthy of the Democrats. We also need, obviously, to get rid of super delegates. The idea that we had, in this case, 400 super delegates pledged to a candidate some 8 months or more before the first ballot was cast is, to my mind, absurd. And we need to also make sure that super delegates do not live in a world of their own, but reflect the views of the people in their own state. So those are just a few of the changes that I think that has got to take place and that we will be fighting for in the weeks and months to come.
Hillary Clinton lost to Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire by 22 percentage points, the biggest victory in a contested Democratic primary there since John F. Kennedy. But it looks as though Clinton and Sanders are leaving the Granite State with the same number of delegates in their pockets because Clinton has the support of New Hampshire's superdelegates, these party insiders. What do you tell voters who are new to the process who says this makes them feel like it's all rigged?
Unpledged delegates exist really to make sure that party leaders and elected officials don't have to be in a position where they are running against grassroots activists. We are, as a Democratic Party, really highlight and emphasize inclusiveness and diversity at our convention, and so we want to give every opportunity to grassroots activists and diverse, committed Democrats to be able to participate, attend, and be a delegate at the convention. And so we separate out those unpledged delegates to make sure that there isn't competition between them.
I'm not sure that